Welcome to Pieter Colpaert. Is that correct? Okay.
It is.
From University of Ghent, Belgium. I have some questions about LDES. Okay.
So that's linked data event streams, right?
Yeah, exactly. Linked data event streams. Okay. I knew that this specific asset, can we call it asset, right?
Sure, it's a specification. Yeah,
specification, so asset. Yeah. Semantic asset was born in SEMIC, right?
Yeah, correct. So it was something we were first experimenting in a couple of projects, European and Flemish ones, each time with the same problem. Like, what kind of APIs do you build on top of your source data set?
Yeah, so can you tell us more about LDES? What is LDES? And in which way you use it, LDES?
Well, so the question that we wanted to answer was, what is the best possible open data API on top of a data set? Because people would share data dumps, would share Sparkle endpoints, of course. In the linked data world, of course, we do Sparkle endpoints. However, in the geospatial world, you do GIS endpoints and WFS and OGC APIs and so on. And if you want to do a full text search, you would do Elasticsearch and so on. So there's so many different APIs you could host, including Sparkle endpoints, but not limited to that, that it's really difficult to pick one. And that's why we said with linked data event streams, we said, hey, but maybe you don't have to pick one. What if we created a base API, an event source, so that everyone can sync their API with the true source of that information? So it's an answer to what's the best possible open data API, so that any kind of question can be answered, but you'll have to do some work. You'll have to ingest it into a system, and you'll have to make sure that the data can work for you by indexing it somehow, whether it's by triples in a Sparkle endpoint, or whether it's using full text search and so on. But it doesn't stop there, in fact. So it's not only about synchronization.
Okay. And do you have specific use cases in which LDES is already used? Successfully, hopefully.
Yes, and there's a very exciting project that we're soon going to collaborate on, of course, in the marine atmosphere, where you have a lot of different actors that in a certain data space, of course, you have a lot of different actors that have certain statements that they have about, in this case, marine regions, for example, and species of how do you call it, a fish? No,
marine species.
Marine species, and you then need to, of course, link them together somehow. Like in that region, you can find these kind of species and so on. And the question is, all of these different parties, what API do they have to host so that we can ask integrated questions over all of them? And then instead of giving them the burden of having to host any kind of API, we just say, first, do a linked data event stream. Then we're going to see what you as a data publisher, whether your budget is already fully consumed or whether you still have room for more kind of specific questions to be answered. For example, the Marine Regions Gazette, which is a data set published by the how do you call it in English? The Flemish Institute for Marine...
For Marine Research or Research, probably,
something like that. The Flemish Marine Institute, I think.
Institute,
something like
okay.
that. Well, they are responsible for this Marine Regions Gazette, and that's a geospatial data set. So you can imagine that the first thing that you want to do is to make sure that you expose a different kind of view, but then based on geospatial regions. So maybe you can apply a tiling approach on top of that, so that if you're a fishery in Italy, for example, that you can say, well, I don't need a full marine regions, I only need these tiles that are relevant to me in Italy. And that's how you speed up this data economy, how you make data flow, because every tile will be always in sync with that event source, and that's a powerful thing, I think. So where has it where is it being applied? Well, in this project that we're together part of, but also in the Flemish data space. It's also being applied in, it's soon going to be applied in the European railway infrastructure knowledge graph, which I'm really excited about as well. So it's all the railways in Europe that is available as a public data set, and so many more use cases are popping up right now. Oh, also address registries, base registries such as address registries. I'm also particularly excited about.
Okay.
Why? Because it's like something that you think that never changes. And so developers, from the moment that they have, for example, a list of street names, or need to autocomplete addresses. In that sense, you think, I'm just going to do a one-time import of the address database, and I'm going to be able to do autocompletion on top of address. The problem is that in a couple of months, there might be new addresses, and there might be new street names, and street names might change, and municipalities might get merged, for example. And an address database is something that lives. It is a stream, so we should apply linked data event streaming on top of address registries as well, and that caters for also some really interesting cross-border use cases. Where, for example, you have some municipalities all across of Europe that are like islands of a certain country inside another country, like in the Netherlands and Belgium, you have Baarle-Hertog and Baarle-Nassau, which is a very specific municipality, which is in fact fully in the Netherlands, but it's a little bit part of Belgium. So if you want to do address autocompletion there, you need to be able to do it federated across both the Dutch one and the Flemish one. And that's something really interesting. If you live near these borders, that you actually need a European database. But of course, there's not going to be a European address database. It lives in a federated fashion. So we always, I believe, we always need to make sure that the data lives as close as possible to the authoritative source, which in that case is the region of Flanders and the Dutch government, of course. Yeah.
That's very interesting, Pieter. And in which way do you see the future of LDES in SEMIC, and how SEMIC can help you to probably improve further this specification, also the adoption of this specification, hopefully within the data spaces, European data spaces?
So first and foremost, it's for us so crucial to have like the thumbs up by a European institution that says like, look, this is a spec that we are doing and we can carry forward. Also, there are other. It's not the only vocabulary, because it is a vocabulary. It's okay. It's a vocabulary about APIs more or less, but still it's a vocabulary to describe that domain. So we are surrounded by true assets of vocabularies, right? The core vocabularies, the DCAT AP, and so on. They are vocabularies that everyone is using, that everyone is referring to. So if linked data event streams can also be something like that, to then maybe also see how it can influence the base registries, DCAT, BRAC DCAT AP, is also a really interesting thing there to further formalize the metadata or the discovery in base registries. So I think that SEMIC is just the only right place where LDES could be standardized, and I'm really happy and proud that we're able to do that, and that it's further going to be taken care of by the SEMIC program.
Thanks a lot, Pieter, for this interview. It was a very pleasure for me to interview you on this topic. Very interesting.
Likewise, honored that you're able to interview, or that I'm able to be interviewed by you. Yeah.
Thanks.